every royal birth, except for that has been close to the line of succession, with the exception of Archie's and Lilibet's, has been signed off by a host of royal doctors. The only two that this has been omitted for, or with, whichever way you want to look at it, have been Archie and Lilibet.
Breaking right now, Meghan Markle continues to change her engagement ring. It's the 4th time she's done this, even though the original ring, estimated to be worth around £120,000, was a gold band crafted by the late Queen Elizabeth II's regular jeweller. Let me bring in Lady Colin Campbell now, and we'll take a look through the changing ring. What is this about, Lady C? Is there a certain psychology to this? Is it making it clear that deep down she's not happy with Prince Harry?
No, I think she's just greedy. And I think that she just doesn't understand what an engagement ring is meant to be, what it represents, what it's about. I mean, the Queen's engagement ring was an itty-bitty little thing, but she loved it because she loved Prince Philip, and she had it for the whole of her life. Meghan is trying to make what is basically a very insignificant and unimportant piece of jewelry in real terms, but of tremendous significance in sentimental terms. She's trying to make it more significant. She keeps on changing it. Well, aside from anything else, it's very expensive to rework jewelry, especially when it's minor jewelry, which is what we're speaking about. I mean, it's not major jewelry. So it's a waste of money. And it also shows that she doesn't understand that an engagement ring is symbolic, and you stick to your original engagement ring, because everything else is not an engagement ring. So she keeps on upgrading, but Meghan is a great upgrader. She spent her whole life upgrading, and she has been very successful in upgrading, but she's never known when to stop. So the upgrade has resulted in exposure as basically a very undesirable individual. I think it's as simple as that.
Do you think she wants to upgrade to a third hubby?
I think she wants to upgrade to a 12-carat perfect white diamond, and Harry can't stretch to that. I think that's what she wants to upgrade to. And so in the meantime, she's rearranging the deck chairs on the 3rd-class promenade as the Titanic is sinking. That's what she's doing. It's not even the 1st or 2nd class. It's a 3rd-class promenade. And I'm afraid you can move around those deck chairs symbolically, including with the engagement ring, as much as you want. Dan, most of my friends have engagement rings that are far more valuable and far more beautiful than any of the versions of that ring. And but some of them who are from very grand families have also very simple rings, because 100 years ago, 150 years ago, even 50 years ago, most engagement rings were very modest. And people who use their family engagement rings, they're relatively modest. I have 2 engagement rings for my sons when they're getting married that I will give to them for them to give to their fiancés. They're both blue sapphires surrounded by diamonds. they make far more of a show than anything that Meghan has. But I mean, we would all be absolutely outraged if they then decided they were going to reset it. You don't reset an engagement ring. You just don't.
Now, I want to talk about what on earth is going on with Prince Harry trying to claim that he wants to bring Archie and Lilibet back to the United Kingdom and that it's King Charles's fault that that isn't happening. Now, all of this briefing, Lady C, was on the cover of a new Hello magazine this week. I mean, that's a whole other story in itself, because I think it's quite despicable that on the day King Charles was at Auschwitz for the 80th anniversary of the liberation of that camp, where obviously over 6 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust, but it was a particularly important day. That's when Harry decided to release the article. So the first thing I'd say is that was very crude and tasteless. But what's most interesting to me about this is that Harry is trying to blame the king for the fact that he has not been able to bring Archie and Lilibet back to the UK. So a friend, and I of course say friend in inverted commas, Lady C, says the goal for Prince Harry is simple. He wants to ensure the safety of himself and his family while in the UK so his children can know his home country and so he can help support his patronages and their important work. But in all seriousness, Lady C, do you really think there is any chance Meghan is going to allow Harry to take Archie and Lilibet back to the United Kingdom for quite obvious reasons?
Well, Dan, the whole thing is preposterous. First of all, it's blackmail on Harry's part. It's nothing but straightforward blackmail. Harry knows that his father cannot intervene. Harry is hoping to put enough pressure on his father for him to intervene. It's not about the safety of those children here, if ever they came at all, or if they lived here. None of that is material, because if the children came here, they are in the royal world, and all the palaces and houses already have royal security. So that right there is a red herring. But also Harry's trying to use leverage using the children as leverage, because he wants whichever state he is living in to pay for their security. And that is not happening at the moment. And as long as Ravek and the palace decide that Harry is not entitled to full-time security, Harry has to pay for his own security. So a lot of this is financial. And Harry is also playing to the gallery, because he knows as well as you and I do that even if he gets his IPP status restored, there's no way he's getting his relationship with his father restored as a matter of course and as a consequence of that happening. So it's all about the money, really, and about the status. Harry and Meghan like to drive around with outriders who go ahead of the car, stop the traffic so that they go shooting through. This is what they want. It's about status. It's about the visible proof that they are important and that they are more important than they are. Because let's remember, there are two other second children of a monarch who have the same status as Harry, Princess Anne and Prince Edward. So Harry doesn't qualify because he is a younger child of a monarch, because Princess Anne, who's the hardest working royal, and Prince Edward, who is a fully paid up member of the royal family and does a lot of engagements, they only have intermittent security. And Harry, but if Harry thinks he's fooling anybody in the royal family, in the aristocracy, or at the palace, or in the law courts, he's wrong. Everybody can see through him. It's a very transparent, cynical, and quite frankly, untoward posture that he has adopted.
Agree with all of that, Lady C. Completely agree with all of that. But can I just ask if you think Harry is starting to poke the bear a little bit here? Because, okay, we know Charles doesn't want to go to all-out war with Harry. But if he is going to start weaponizing the children in this way, briefing to the cover of Hello magazine, trying to undermine the king, suggesting the king should overturn his own government's decision, suggesting the king is in some way heartless, doesn't care about the security of his own grandchildren and his own son, isn't there all of a sudden a real reason for Charles to start asking questions about the line of succession, about the titles for Archie and Lilibet? Now, I know there's a lot of reasons why he thinks that isn't a wise thing to do. Charles just almost wants to pretend that there aren't questions about the legitimacy of Archie and Lilibet. However, if Harry continues to make this an issue, is he not trying in a way to provoke the royal family to ask those questions? Because surely Archie and Lilibet should only get security if we know that they should legitimately be in the line of succession.
Well, Dan, Archie and Lilibet would not be getting security.
But that's what Harry wants, isn't it? He wants to, what Harry's saying is Harry's argument is he cannot consider bringing the children over to meet King Charles or to see King Charles. I mean, I think Lilibet's only met the king once, which is appalling when you think about it. He can't do that unless the security is provided to Harry.
It's blackmail, and I'm afraid nobody's falling for it. No, my understanding is that the king has not fallen for it. The late queen didn't fall for it. Harry may hope that his father will fall for it, but he's not falling for it. And this is not a weakening Charles's resolve, it's strengthening it. Because Harry is trying to get the king to behave in an unconstitutional way by blackmailing him and dangling those children as carrots. And none of it makes sense, because if the children are over to see the king, they already fall within the parameters of the king's security. So it's ludicrous. I mean, Harry is making preposterous arguments, and he's hopeful, and he's been hopeful for some time, and he's got nowhere so far. And I honestly don't see how he can how he will be able to prevail. And if he does, I tell you, it will be a shocking disgrace. But also, it won't mean that we, the Brits, will be paying for most of his security. It means the Americans will be paying for most of his security, because wherever he is, it is the state that he is in that is responsible for the lion's share of the costs of his security. I think it is irrational. I think it's unreasonable. I think that if somebody behaves like this, I would have to ask myself, what drugs are they on? Because what has blown any mind they once had? Because it's totally illogical. It doesn't make sense, except to gratify somebody whose powers of reasoning are clearly totally defective.
But you don't see a scenario where this type of pressure on King Charles publicly from Harry actually prompts the king into asking the questions which I know you think need to be asked, and I certainly think need to be asked, about whether Archie and Lilibet should be sitting in the line of succession at all. But first, the reason you're watching this show is because you know that these days it's almost impossible to trust the mainstream media or the so-called fact-checkers who claim to patrol social media. And that's for a very good reason, given the Brexit debacle, COVID debate, and the demonisation of Donald Trump. But I have the solution. Today's sponsor, Ground News, created by a former NASA engineer to provide you with the only safe way to consume the headlines, is just brilliant. So go to ground.news/outspoken and check it out for yourself. But I want to show you this incredible website and app in action. So let's, for example, look at the recent story about Elon Musk falling out with Nigel Farage over Tommy Robinson. Of course, the left-wing media really tried to whip this whole thing up. They wanted to destroy all three men. But what Ground News does is collate all of the sources, 230 in this case, and then instantly shows how the story is being covered by the media based on whether the organizations are to the left or the right. It's called the Bias Distribution Service. And you can scroll down and see every article about this topic broken down by the political position and ownership of the publication, which really matters. So in this case, of course, Fox News was fair and balanced, as you would expect, very much in contrast to Mediaite and The Independent. But what's more, Ground News gets to know you personally. It provides you with news stories you're interested in, but it also analyzes your own biases to come up with potential blind spots about stories you might not be hearing about. Look, I know you love the news. I do. But we don't trust the legacy media. So Ground News gives you the tools to understand the truth about what is going on in the world. It's actually the only way. I read the news now. I have the app on my phone. I love the website. It allows me to see through media bias and manipulative narratives without relying on the MSM to define what is the truth for me. So go to ground.news/outspoken to check it out. You can subscribe through my link for 40% off the Vantage plan, which is what I use for unlimited access. Now, I should say too, Ground News is subscriber funded. If you support it, you are supporting my work. And for less than a Netflix subscription, you get all of the world's news in one place. But most importantly, it allows you to think for yourself, which is such a game changer. So let me just repeat the address. That is ground.news/outspoken. If you are watching on YouTube or Rumble, you can click on the QR code on screen or in the description box below this show. But now, back to the news.
And I think, Dan, that the two issues are totally unrelated. The children's security has nothing whatsoever to do, because the children don't qualify for full security no matter what. They don't qualify. Even if they were here, they wouldn't qualify for the level of security that Harry would possess. So I think the two things are totally separate. I see the link that you're making, which is that he being Harry, could create so much antagonism that people behind the scenes would say, we're just fed up with this. Let's just knock them out of the running by demanding that previous protocols be filled. Let's put it that way. Because remember, no protocol has been filled with respect to the birth of either of those children.
No.
Because all royal births from 1688 until 1936 were witnessed by the Home Secretary, and thereafter the Home Secretary's presence was deemed to be unnecessary because you had the royal obstetricians and you had unimpeachable witnesses to the birth of those children who would then sign off officially on the announcements. Every royal birth, except for that has been close to the line of succession, with the exception of Archie's and Lilibet's, has been signed off by a host of royal doctors. The only two that this has been omitted for, or with, whichever way you want to look at it, have been Archie and Lilibet. So but I don't see that, sorry, I don't see that there's any true link between that and the children and the children's and Harry's status in terms of security. Because even if the children are indisputably entitled to their place in the line of succession, they're still not indisputably entitled to security at the level Harry would like them to have. I mean, remember also, there was the fuss about Eugenie and Beatrice's security. And that was stood down, notwithstanding the fact that they were teenagers and adult grandchildren of the monarch who were out and about leading active lives. These children they are not brought up here, they're not even living here. I mean, why would we, the British people, be expected to pay for their security, even if they were unimpeachably and indubitably entitled to their positions in the line of succession?
Lady C, this week Prince William was spotted at his farm talking about Harry, or a Harry at least. Have a look at this.
Very nice.
Now, while I can understand, Lady C, that the Sussex squad obviously very quickly jumped on this and suggested that there perhaps was some type of reconciliation between the brothers, I'm told that isn't the case, and Harry was not his brother that he was referring to in that conversation. Is that your understanding?
Obviously, Dan. I mean, it's ridiculous that anybody would have thought that William was going to be speaking about his brother Harry when he doesn't speak to his brother Harry and won't speak about his brother Harry. I mean, I gather that Prince William would sooner bring up yesterday's breakfast than have the word Harry in terms of his brother escape from his lips.
And Lady C, there was another fascinating moment this week where all of the new politicians went to meet with the members of the royal family. It's one of those traditions. So you saw Keir Starmer, the British Prime Minister, and Kemi Badenoch, the official leader of the opposition, posing there with Charles and Camilla. And so far, so boring, really. But this is the one I'm interested in, these two pictures, because there's Nigel Farage and Richard Tice of Reform UK, major critics of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, having very comfortable conversations with Prince Edward and Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh. And speaking after the event to the Daily Mail, Nigel Farage heaped a lot of pressure on Edward and Sophie, said they were great, but then also said in regards to Harry and Meghan, Wonder Boy and Wonder Girl disappear off to America. The Queen dies. The King's not been well. Andrew's not in the public eye. Princess Anne's 74, so they are doing a lot of heavy lifting and I think doing it very well. What was interesting about this to me, Lady C, is that even just having a conversation like that with Farage and getting on so well is certainly going to really get up Harry and Meghan's nose, isn't it?
Well, Harry and Meghan would like to feel that they're central to all issues, but they're not. And I mean, why would anybody care about Harry and Meghan at Buckingham Palace anymore? And why would Nigel Farage care about Harry? I mean, Harry is an embarrassment, and Meghan is worse than an embarrassment. Meghan is somebody who is regarded as a danger to be contained. And, they are yesterday's people. They have worked their way from a position of significance into a position of insignificance. And I really don't see how there's going to be any possibility of them getting out of the hole that they have dug for themselves, and that they keep on digging ever deeper. I mean, if ever anybody had a talent for doing the wrong thing, it's Meghan Markle. It's almost as if, Dan, she's thought, I'm so clever, I'm going to be able to run rings around all these people. And the world is really dumb and stupid. The world is as dumb and stupid as all of the men I've sucked up to over the years and managed to convince I loved them and was wonderful. And I could use them for the full length of time that I had a use for them. And then when there was another rung up the ladder that I could go, I simply leapt onto it and, told them goodbye, usually in the most ignominious way. And I mean, her track record of failure is truly amazing. It goes to show, if you're bad at something, don't keep on perfecting the art. Meghan Markle was really good at faking being warm, kind, enthusiastic, ambitious. And all of this worked for her as long as she had somewhere to go to and to milk the system as she climbed up that ladder from one back of a man up the rung to the other back of another man. And once she reached where she had aspired to get to, which was a huge accomplishment, because, I mean, really, to be a relatively plain girl who's, as she started out being, and ended up being quite attractive with all the beauty aids, and she certainly knows how to pull out the stops in a sort of when Harry met Sally sort of way. And all of that. But having achieved what she achieved, she then dropped her guard and stopped pretending and stopped using all the ploys that she had used to get where she had got, and just dropped the guard and became herself. And having dropped the guard, she has shown the world what a truly appalling human being she is. I mean, the way she has treated her father, her sister, her father-in-law, her sister-in-law, her brother-in-law. I mean, I know people who met Meghan when she and Harry were living here, and they went out of their way. I'm speaking about members of the aristocracy,
Yes.
Harry's circle.
Yes.
And they went out of their way to be warm and welcoming to Meghan. And they were very charitably disposed towards Meghan. Everybody was really very hopeful that this would be a good thing. And Meghan systematically spurned every approach. Because Meghan, in my view, Meghan has a massive chip on her shoulder, as her uncle Mike Markle said. And I think that she basically feels very inadequate, and I think she's basically a very insecure person who has convinced herself that the patina and facade of security will work well for her, and it did. But basically, I think Meghan is a self-hating individual who is uncomfortable amongst people who are genuinely nice, genuinely kind, genuinely sophisticated, genuinely well-placed. All of Meghan's friends are and have always been people who were hustling on the way up. So in other words, she is a hustler who's comfortable with other people on the make. She's not comfortable with people who are established and who have basically noble sentiments. I'm sorry, that's my take on her. And
Don't apologize, Lady C.
I'm
I'm sitting here thinking to myself, no one sums it up better than the great Lady Colin Campbell, and that is why I am a viewer of Lady C's YouTube channel, the Lady Colin Campbell YouTube channel. You get analysis like this twice a week. If you remember, actually, you get analysis like that much, much more. And I'm always so grateful that you're on Outspoken as well as your own channel, Lady C. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.